Welcome back to the Divorce and Money podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, and I'm very excited for our conversation. With me is Theresa Viera, family law attorney, founder at Modern Legal, family law mediator, and the host at the Legal Lounge. She is based in North Carolina, and I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I'm going to tell you a little bit what we're going to be doing today. We picked a few questions that usually our listeners post on social media. And we want to talk about not just the misinformation, but also the danger of asking certain questions and getting information and advice for those that are not professionals. We understand this is a very overwhelming process and emotional, and asking for support, emotions, and even someone to help you understand the process based on their personal experience is one thing. But it's very dangerous when you go out there and take the advice of individuals that are not professionals at heart and then make decisions in your particular situation based on that advice. So today we're going to demystify those questions and also the answers, right? Some of the answers that individuals are posting on social media, so you have an understanding of how risky it is to do that, and also understanding that there is professionals out there. We are out there to help you through this process. You don't have to do it alone, and you don't have to do it based on the social media advice, if you will. Marriage is about love. Divorce is about money. Without the right guidance, critical mistakes can have lasting financial consequences. That is where I come in. My name is Gabriela Martinelli, founder at Ever After Wealth. As a certified divorce financial analyst, I provide my clients financial clarity, strategic divorce planning, and long-term stability. On this podcast, I am sharing what you need to know about getting through a divorce, protecting your legacy, growing your wealth and assets post-divorce, and figuring it out what you really want in this next stage of life. Let's get started. So, Theresa, welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome. Not back. I was in your podcast as a guest, but welcome to my home today at the Divorce and Money podcast. So, tell us a little bit about you, and then we can dive in.
Sounds good. Gabriela, it's so nice to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation for your listeners. So yes, I'm a family law attorney. I have been practicing well over a decade, but I do like to tell individuals that I've actually been in and out of the courtroom since I was a child. So I have seen the thick of it through and through, both as a child as well as an attorney, mediator, advocate for those I serve. I founded Modern Legal in 2020 amidst the pandemic because, when the world goes into chaos, why not start a business? But it was with the true belief that legal services, specifically when it comes to the family, need to change. In the past 48 hours, I've probably said at least 5 times to 5 different clients that the system is broken. It is. And it's us that need to change it. And that happens from within. So thank you so much for having this conversation. Let's tackle those questions that we see on social media.
I am so excited about this. This is always, I know we did it in your podcast, and I have more questions because those are always there. So I'm going to start with a very basic question, if you will. So just for our listeners, Theresa is based in North Carolina, so she practices in North Carolina. She also her firm also practices in South Carolina. So obviously, a lot of that has to do with the law is very different, right?
Yes.
It's one state, the other state. But we're going to respond maybe in general, and when it's specific to North Carolina, we want to tackle those. And this one is, and you will see, is a very basic question for North Carolina, but it creates so much struggle in individuals because they don't understand. And so I'm going to read the question. I'm going to say some of the answers of the questions because they're particularly dangerous. So basic. This was someone's post. It was, do you really have to live separately from your spouse for a year before divorce? I don't understand how people can do this. We need to sell the house in order to afford separate residence. Any insight will be helpful, right? So it's a very question. It happens in North Carolina. That's a question that we get, and you can jump on the legal side of things. But some of the answers were, speak with a lawyer because there is an exception where you can live in the same home, but it's very rare in North Carolina. So that was one. Okay. So that's one of the answers. The other was, I know people who just changed their address legally to their parents, right? The other one was, well, me and my ex-husband wanted a simple divorce. He keeps all his stuff, and I keep all mine. We told the lawyer we had been separated for a year already, even though it had only been 2 weeks. Got the divorce easy peasy. I think it was $700. That's the answer. Somebody responded to the person and said, oh, that's a bad idea. Please do not do this.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And then somebody said, I know 2 people that their spouse and them both decided they wanted to get divorced ASAP, and they found a way around it. I am not a lawyer, though, and they were definitely breaking rules, but they got it done. Also, I went through a divorce, filed all of my paperwork myself, and I swear I don't even remember anybody asking if we were living apart or not. Okay. Next one. Me and my ex just agreed that we were living separate, even though it has been only 3 months. They didn't ask for any proof. We just went to the court, mailed it to a friend's house instead when we did the filing, and it was the best thing that he could ever agree to do for me. And we're going to go a little deeper in this one, and then, Theresa, you can take it on with all of them, but this is a long one.
I would just like to note for the record, I am squirming in my seat right now because this makes me so uncomfortable.
Yes. If you're both in agreement of who keeps the house, there is an option of subtracting the split debts by the split equity and doing a quitclaim deed. You don't have to wait. The one keeping the house takes out a loan in their name and pays out what is owed to their spouse. In return, the spouse signs the quitclaim deed, remove themselves from the deed, then you can use the payout to get your own place. Talk to an attorney. I just recently did. Then you can just lie about your separation and file. Well, last answer before Theresa loses her mind, so I can let her talk. My lawyer told me, do not tell me your date of separation. My attorney said specifically, we can agree on a day as long as we both agree and we don't tell them anything. So we could have said that we separated back in 2023 as long as we both agree and there was no issue. The only issue would be if then my ex will change their mind after we file, and that could create a problem. My attorney then would not help me. So I know you hear us laughing. We're laughing because it makes us very nervous to see these answers online and knowing that a lot of people are reading these answers and making very important decisions about their lives within these responses, right? Yeah. Taking this into consideration. So please explain.
Sure.
What happens in North Carolina?
Yeah. Okay. For education purposes only.
Yes, of course.
Because I do not want to be tied to any of those responses specifically. I'll say it this way. When you sign a document with the court, that is your evidence of the date of separation. And if you lie to the court, it's called perjury, in case no one has ever heard of it before. And to commit perjury is actually a criminal offense. Now, I'm not saying the local district attorney's office or your local law enforcement is searching for people who are lying, but I will say right now, everyone who has responded in that fashion, they should be thankful to you, Gabriella, that you didn't also put their names on blast through this podcast, because that is an actionable offense. The way it actually works is that if parties reside separately under separate roofs, and at least one party has the intent to end the relationship, that is the date of separation for legal purposes. Now, yeah, when you put it in a pleading that we separated on a certain date, the opposing party is the party normally who would contest that. The issue is at some point in the future, it could also be contested. Because if it's found that a pleading was filed with any criminal behavior, I mean, it could be overturned in 10 years, 15 years, possibly. I actually had a case where it didn't have to do with the date of separation, but an absolute divorce that had been granted, I want to say at least 6 or 7 years prior, was overturned, not based on a date of separation issue, but because there was no proof of service, meaning there was no proof that the defendant got a piece of paper. So if proof or lack of proof that someone got a piece of paper could overturn a divorce through some mechanics of the law, I can only imagine with the date of separation. So rather, the appropriate way, and mind you, in North Carolina, that's only for the claim of absolute divorce. All these issues with marriage and separation, such as the house, such as asset and debt issues, such as the children, child support, spousal support, that actually is to be resolved before the absolute divorce here in North Carolina. And that year of separation is to give you that guaranteed time so you don't even have to worry about the divorce to get all your ducks in a row. So a lot of individuals who are like, well, I have to wait a whole year before I get a divorce, and I can't wait that long to sell the house. Actually, that's what the year is for. Right. So you can sell the house before you get a divorce, or get an equitable distribution of the entirety of the estate, meaning resolve all those property issues. And that's critical, because if you end up lying, or if an attorney ends up lying, or anyone is shown to do any form of misrepresentation or malfeasance, then a lot of people could be in trouble. A lot of people.
It's just very scary that people are assuming that you just can go and look at lie to the court, because that's what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You're signing a verification. And I think the biggest problem also within North Carolina specifically is that a lot of individuals don't understand the difference, right? You just said absolute divorce is one thing. Mm-hmm. You can go ahead and resolve everything. Mm-hmm. You can resolve the division of the assets. You can do child custody. You can do support. And I think that misunderstanding creates other issues. For example, for a dependent spouse, they think they cannot do anything for a year. So nobody files for support. And you have a dependent spouse that thinks that they cannot do anything for a year because people are saying you cannot do anything for a year. Again, the risk of not talking to a legal professional, where he can tell you what you can and cannot do.
And
does that make sense?
It does. And let's go to the national context. Granted, I am only licensed in North Carolina, but that's because in other states, you do ask for, say, alimony with your divorce complaint, or you do ask for child custody with your divorce complaint. Yes. That's not the case in North Carolina. They're all separate matters. And in fact, I tell a lot of prospective clients, if they're still living in the same house, let's actually try to amicably resolve everything before anyone moves out of the house, which we can do in North Carolina, make that legally enforceable. And then you have a game plan, if you will, in place for that year of separation.
Yeah. And I think that is, and people think, oh my God, a year, we're waiting. There's some states, I have clients all over the United States. There's some states like New Jersey, you cannot finalize a divorce until everything else is resolved. Mm-hmm. So if you think about that, I don't know which one is worse, because in North Carolina, you have the ability to resolve everything, and then you go get your absolute divorce. Or in New Jersey, sometimes you have years and you cannot get a divorce because you still have things pending because, they're not in agreement. Or things of that nature. But I think that the wait, for people to understand, the wait is not just about resolving everything. It's actually just about that absolute divorce piece.
Yes.
Other states, actually, you can be separated under the same roof. And I think that where the problem comes, right? Social media is open to everybody. Everybody's telling what they think. And I thought it was funny specifically about the rare exception where you can get a divorce before being separated. Again, we're not giving legal advice, but there's no such a thing as an exception, is there?
No.
What's there's not, it doesn't exist. And I was going to point out, I heard of a case, it was not particularly me working on the case, but it was someone close to me, and a divorce was annulled and voided 5 years after the fact because of some kind of problem. Well, one of the spouses will remarry. So that marriage was voided. So they were married for 4 years, but they were not legally married.
And the ripple effect of that, not that we're going to go completely down that black hole, is then all the protections that you get with marriage are not insured for that second spouse or second marriage.
Correct.
Which is just crazy to think about, because you think you get married and make this investment. And so, some spouses decide to become stay-at-home parents or stay-at-home spouses. And suddenly now they don't have a spouse support claim because they were never married. Right? Or property issues, or
very dangerous.
The ripple effect. Do it right the first time.
Yes. And don't lie to the court.
Don't lie to the court.
Yeah. And it's scary to think about an attorney saying, don't tell me the date, just tell me what you agree on. That is, to me, that's very scary.
Well, it's not only unethical.
Well, right.
It would be grounds that something needs to be reported to the regulatory body like the state bar. So I'll say it this way. A lot of attorneys say a lot of things.
100%.
So personally, I would never put my license on the line for simply put, such a dumb statement. So just throwing it out
It's
there.
not like that big of a deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. This one is one that I think we touched the last time, and I think we need to touch again because there is this misconception about what kind of professional you need going through this process, okay? So, and this one has a little bit of twofold because, as you know, I am, a divorce financial strategist, and that's basically what I do, and is very public knowledge that I have a significant problem with financial advisors that try to dabble in doing what I do when they're really doing other type of work like investments or selling financial products. When someone is going through this process, is a big no-no, right? You don't buy a life insurance policy. You don't do that type of transaction. And I just want to point out how dangerous it is, either the attorney you picked in this process and what is that the ideal attorney is. And then there's also talk a little bit deeper into a professional that works with you if it's on the financial side. So there were two different questions. And I think this shows a little bit the misconceptions and how people can go through the wrong way, the wrong side, asking for the type of professional they think they need rather than understanding the system and what could be helpful for them, right? So there's the two different ones. The first one, which is about an attorney, it says, my friend just went to mediation for divorce after being a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. And his attorney is a shark, and he's protecting his money, the LLCs and accounts with his mom. Her attorney has done nothing for her. Just told her she was too emotional in mediation, and the attorney was taking calls from other clients during this mediation. Please give me all of your bulldog shark attorney recommendations. So that's one. The whole bulldog shark attorney. Can we talk about the bulldog shark attorney? Because I don't think there's such a thing, and I don't think it's productive in this particular situation, under circumstances in divorce, what somebody calls a bulldog. Because to me, being in the system, knowing the players, knowing how the legal system works, it almost feels to me the bulldog, what people call a bulldog attorney, is a good actor. For the individuals that feel that they need someone to have a certain demeanor or raise their voice. And how realistic is that is going to help anyone in any context, right? Either if you're going to mediation or you're in front of a judge. A judge will certainly most of the time not accept that type of behavior. So what is ideally the skills that someone should be looking for in an attorney?
I love that question.
Right? Rather than the bulldog shark attorney, because I personally don't know. I kind of know what people mean or they think they mean when they're looking for that. But that is not a skill that I will particularly pick for my clients when I do a referral, right?
I'm going to take that as like two separate questions. So the first one is like, what would I view as a bulldog shark attorney, at least in our culture? And then the second question, what should you actually be looking for in an attorney? So, which are fantastic questions. The first one is the bulldog shark attorney, if you will, or the facade of one, is kind of like, I'll say it bluntly, is when a 5-year-old comes up to me and says, Miss Theresa, I want a unicorn. And yes, we can go to a local farm where there's ponies and put a horn on the pony, make them a unicorn for a photo shoot, which one of my friends just did with her little girl. So cute, right? Yep. But we also know no unicorns actually exist, right? So it's nothing but more than a facade. Go one step further, a lot of the attorneys that I have seen floated out there as bulldog shark attorneys, and I will say some people would say I'm a bulldog shark attorney when it comes to certain matters, such as like domestic violence cases. So part of it is, are they a true advocate, right? And thus they are seem like a bulldog shark attorney. Are they knowledgeable about the law? Are they creative and effective when it comes to protecting individual legal interests, whether that be for the client or for a child, right? I think that's the better way of looking at a bulldog. But unfortunately, when I see bulldog shark attorney, I also think of the car salesman who's just trying to get a buck. And they're sometimes, especially in this city of Charlotte, some of the bulldog shark attorneys, they tout on that image, the unicorn image, and that's where all their fees go. And then that's when you see the list in other social media posts of the only people who win are attorneys. They're only out for the money, all this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, yeah, if you hire a bulldog shark attorney to purchase a unicorn type of legal service, then you're gonna have an astronomical, unreasonable legal fees bill. Right. So let's back up. What you actually want to look for is someone who listens to you. Start there. Someone who actually understands your perspective, resonates with you, can relate to you, and feels like a right fit. Not just because that attorney happens to practice the area of law that you're seeking, but more importantly, is like a personality fit, if you will. I kind of joke with my team. I'm like, finding a family law attorney is kind of like shopping for shoes. Just because it comes in your size doesn't mean it fits right or is comfortable, right? And so you really want to find that attorney that listens. You really want to find that attorney that gets it, that understands your particular case. You want an attorney that understands the law and the dynamics of how the law works, but also how reality works, right? Especially when it comes to child custody. And I know we're talking more money on this podcast, but especially when it comes to children, I have a custody order, but so-and-so violated it. What can we do? We can file a motion. That motion will be scheduled on for hearing in anywhere from 6 to 9 months. What do you mean 6 to 9 months? Welcome to reality. So you want an attorney that understands those realities, doesn't just lead you on with false beliefs, and then can actually guide and strategize you through this chapter of your life.
Yeah, and I think that's a big one, because I always say, okay, if your attorney is making you believe or is telling you that everything is going to go your way and the result is going to be what you want, and that you have everything in your case set up in a way that you're going to get what you want, that to me is a red flag. Mm-hmm. Because first of all, this is big, from my days in the legal world, there's no guarantees. Mm-hmm. No matter what, you never know, especially if you go to court, right? Because you have a judge. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like when someone said, but the attorney said, and I'm going to win, and I'm like, when you meet with an attorney that tells you that all is going to go your way, mm-hmm. that is my red flag right there. It's like, okay, go talk to another attorney, because they are putting the show for you to believe, but that is impossible. No one can guarantee mm-hmm. how the case is going to go, period. Okay, there's a law, there's the interpretation of the law, and there's how good of a case you can put with an attorney. That's why I think it's very important to understand. And I just had this memory that came back to me when you were talking, and I didn't bring that question, but someone particularly, and that one was very interesting because I did respond to that question, but the question was, has anyone, I'm paraphrasing, does anyone have experience with Judge X in Mecklenburg County, which we're in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and Judge X, and I need an attorney that always wins in front of this judge. I need recommendations, right? So I thought that was interesting because, mm-hmm. and I did respond, said, well, I don't think that you can find someone that always wins in front of this judge, right? Judges have their own ways, and you can find an attorney that understands the judge maybe a little better, or they know how to strategize with the judge, but you're not going to find that. But of course, there were a lot of responses about, oh yeah, this attorney, they always win in front of this judge, so you should go with them. And then there's other people related to the attorney saying, oh yeah, we win all the cases in front of this particular judge. No, you don't.
No.
Yeah. And I feel at the same time sometimes I do get very upset because individuals are really asking the questions.
Yeah.
They're honestly asking, thinking that is an option.
They're in a desperate moment. And,
right.
And it's so interesting you point that out, because if a person has the need to have this question answered, and they're turning to social media, let's put this in a bigger context here.
Yes.
It could be because they don't have other people to turn to.
100%.
That they don't have family, they don't have friends, maybe they're not talking to anyone yet, maybe they don't have the fees for a consultation fee. Like, these are people who are very vulnerable and who are possibly in very desperate, in a very desperate situation. Yeah. And in a way, and I'm going to come across as aggressive here, but how dare the people who respond the way that they do respond the way that they do?
I'm with you 100%.
Period.
Yeah.
And that it literally hurts my heart sometimes when I read some of those responses. I've had to actually take actual breaks because I'm like, this is someone in need asking for help. And we're saying, oh, bulldog, and this attorney will always win, and you're already setting them up for failure because there's no explanation of the greater context. I tell every one of my clients, and I'm sure some of my clients would testify to it, where I tell them, look, you've already lost. You've already lost because you've walked into my office. You've already lost because you're sitting down planning to hire a family law attorney. Let's take a deep breath. Let's swallow our pride and realize that that's the reality of circumstance. And if we have to enter a courtroom, then we've probably lost even further. Yes. And no one is walking out a winner. But how can we try our best, whether we're inside a courtroom or not, to do what's best for the family because of this failure?
Right. So it's true. Yeah. And I share your anger. And I know that you and I are very similar in the sense that there's no nonsense that comes out of our mouths. So that's very good about the attorney. Now, let's talk about professionals, like, for example, someone like me, a divorce financial strategist, and I know we have worked cases together. The role that we play is more strategizing on the money, and a lot of that is educating the client. And it's not just the tracing and looking for money and trying to come up with things. It's also about how we can strategize this. How do we anticipate what may be coming, right? Again, this is a strategy. We're just trying to make the best we can for the family. And that's why I think it's very important when individuals are trying to find those professionals, not just the attorney, to help them within this case. And I'm going to read a question that was posted by a financial advisor that tries to dabble into what I do. And I think this is significant because I want to get the reaction from an attorney when this is being asked under the circumstances of the actual divorce, right? So the question was, I need advice, please. I am working with a client and I am going to consolidate a couple of the 401ks before she files for divorce. Her husband just served her with papers 1 or 2 days. Can I go ahead and just move all the money? So, just for those that are listening, the question is no. The question is no, you cannot move the money for many, many reasons. From a financial perspective, that would be a problem, consolidating those accounts. Again, and this is without knowing what is happening, right? We don't know how many accounts. We don't know what's happening in the underlying. We don't even know whether this money is marital or not, right? Like we don't know what's going to happen. But this was asked by a financial advisor that is helping this person to invest money. That's what they're trying to do, right? And for those who don't understand, the underlying conversation here is, I want to take all that money, put it in this account that I'm going to open so I can manage and make money. That's the bottom line. True about what this advisor is doing. Period. Okay. And so I have an experience that actually was with one of my clients. I had to fight that with with her financial advisor. But tell me what happens when that happens from the legal point of view. Like if this advisor decides that they want to make money, or they don't get the right answers there, because my answer to them was absolutely not. No matter which side you are, from a financial perspective, right? Because I don't give legal advice. But tell me how this complicates the case from these individuals, either of them.
Do not touch the marital estate, whether it's 401k account, a savings account, etc., until you've talked with the appropriate professionals, period. And as a financial advisor specifically, do not coach any of your clients to do anything that could make everything much harder, as well as could look deceiving. Do not advise your client to become Al Capone. Okay? Right. We're not gangsters up in here. We're not trying to move money. We're not trying to evade taxes. We're not trying to money launder. Okay?
Right.
If anything, bite your tongue, whoever this financial advisor is, and let's work through the marital estate and how things are divided. And with all the books on the table, then we figure out what goes where. And I like to say someone such as yourself, a CDFA, comes in during the divorce process during this chapter, and that financial advisor can be there, but let's have them there after the orders are entered, possibly after the divorce is done, after we know where all the money is going. Because at that point, great. Maybe they not only need to move their 401k or retirement funds, maybe they also need life insurance at that point, but not before. I get real finicky because even if it could, for the here and now, maybe benefit a client, it is not a long-term strategy because it complicates everything. And trust you me, if your attorney is like, I don't know if this is a good move, a judge may have that same feeling. And once judges don't like you, it is hard, if not impossible, to switch that opinion.
Right. And because that's the appearance of why you're doing this now. You're going through this process and you're doing that. And by the way, we're assuming here, we don't even know whether this money is marital money or not, right? Yeah. Because until somebody goes there and looks at those accounts and make the assumption like, okay, I'll go trace, you attorney tell me whether this is marital money or not. You're also risking combining separate money with marital money. And then you have a whole other problem when it comes to dividing this money, right?
And then it's even worse if the attorney is the one who's saying, let's lie about the date of separation, so then we don't even know what date we're using for the balances on the accounts. Oh, the love of God.
Exactly. So, yes, don't do that.
No,
don't do that. But I think that the move in the money, I had particularly a client of mine. I was working her divorce. She had a financial advisor. She decided to go find a new advisor because it was the couple's advisor. And then I get a phone call one day from an advisor that I didn't know and said, I'm working with it such and such, and I'm going to combine all of her accounts, and I'm going to move all this money. I said, what? I mean, who are you? So I had to call my client immediately, and I said, do not do anything, call my client. But we were already in the process, and some of these IRAs that were going to be combined were separate money. We knew that already. Like, I was in the process. We had that distinction have been done. Like the attorney said, this is out. We're going to work with this one. But this advisor was going to mix all of it into an account. And my client, I did have my client, what are you doing? Like, I'm right here. Ask me the question. You pay me the money. Like, maybe ask me the questions.
Well, and from a legal perspective, I know you're pointing out separate and marital. Both pots of money are treated so differently legally.
Right.
And if you start commingling things, it could literally legally change the characteristic of that money.
Exactly.
And financial advisors don't know that. Right. CDFAs should. Except for those who dabble.
If we do this,
and attorneys should, right? That's family law attorneys, right? That's why you want to be careful which attorney you're also hiring. But there's something to be said of, it's like, hey, just don't touch anything. Let us go in and fix things. Because, I mean, I'm sure I'm giving an example for like a plumbing example, because, a plumber would probably say, if you have a leak, don't touch anything. Let us look at everything, because we don't know where the hole in the pipe is. And you just replacing the faucet could do nothing. Or you just replacing something else could do nothing. And here we are, it's like, just let us analyze and try to figure out the problem first, and then we go from there.
And then we'll go from there. And that's why it's very important to know who your experts are, and go to the expert in that particular item. Is like the financial expert, or is it? And again, and when you double, it's almost like when I talk to clients, I said, I have a friend that is going to take care of. He's an attorney. Okay, what kind of attorney is it? Oh, it's a personal injury attorney. I'm like, that's not an expert in divorce. Like, can we talk to an expert first, and then we'll figure it out?
The professionals. It's so funny, though, because, I mean, you literally have a stack of papers of all the experts in the responses. And I tell my clients, I'm like, I know when you suddenly start talking about your divorce, like you have like 10 new attorneys in the family, and like none of them have gone to law school. Half of them got a divorce in Jersey or Florida. And here we are in North Carolina. Like, it's different laws too.
And not only that, even within and I always say this, it could be the same state, same county, same town, same neighborhood. The case will be different. It doesn't matter. It could be the same amount of kids. It can be like it's still 15-year marriage. It will be different. There's no one case the same to the other. So it's kind of interesting. But anyway, I have a lot of questions, so we got to keep going because I get very excited about all of this. So our next question, I think, it will be short, but I think it's important for people to hear this because there is a process, there is a procedure, there's consequences to everything that happens and everything you do while you're going through this process, right? So someone asked, those of you that file for an uncontested divorce, which again, two separate things in North Carolina, did any of you go ahead and start transferring assets before it was finalized? We are in agreement with everything. The judge has now signed the order, but I want to start changing the names and sign the quitclaim deed. I want to start transferring this very quickly. I do not want to wait this and drag this out forever. So my thought is, and I did read some of the answers, like, oh, go ahead and start signing everything. But how risky it is for you to sign a quitclaim deed and maybe give your soon-to-be ex-spouse a house without having a court order that guarantees certain things within the house. For example, the house. I'm thinking there may be other assets, but if you don't have a court order, don't do anything. That will be my thing. Until you have that order, right? Or agreement signed.
I'm going to say it this way.
Okay.
There is no agreement, no requirement, no actual legally binding arrangement until it's signed, sealed, and delivered. And what I mean by that is maybe it's a separation agreement. So that does mean it can be initial, signed, and notarized without any court filing.
Right.
So if you have a signed, sealed, and delivered separation agreement, for example, in North Carolina, and it says deed shall be transferred, et cetera, which usually lays out a timeline, actually, regardless of the status of the divorce, then follow that. If you have a court order, in North Carolina, the claim would be equitable distribution, that involves a final resolution of asset and debt distribution, then great, follow the court order. Again, that should kind of lay out what's going on. But if you don't have that signed agreement and you don't have that court order, which is signed by the judge and filed with the court, then you don't have an agreement.
Right.
So let's start there.
Right.
So and granted, I know I'm an attorney, but if I don't have an actual legally binding agreement, I'm not signing a deed and waiving the interest in my house, in your rights, and possible money that's on the table. And I get it. Deeds are like 2-3 pages. They're very small documents, but you sign that over. That's it. It is a very expensive signature that you've just applied. And so I would not do any of that until you have the order. Now, I will also know, I think that the person who's asking that question is kind of confusing the two processes.
Yes.
At least in North Carolina, because the divorce can be granted before or after a trial on equitable distribution is had, right? So, the divorce really, at least here in North Carolina, doesn't have anything to do with the property distribution. Property.
But she did say the order hasn't been entered yet, but I want to start dividing the property. So that tells me maybe there is an ED order coming. And, people think that's the divorce filing too, because there's a lot of misunderstanding.
That's true.
On that. So, don't do anything.
And sure, it could be coming.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
When?
Yes.
Tomorrow?
The check is in the mail.
A week?
Yes. And not only that, if you have an agreement, for example, it's not a court order, if someone doesn't sign the agreement and they say, I'm going to sign it next week, you sign a quitclaim deed, but they don't sign your agreement, you don't have an agreement.
Yeah, you don't have an agreement.
You don't have any legal recourse.
You can file a lawsuit, and I, as a litigator, will have a lot of fun with it, but you've already released your rights to the house.
Right. And then again, there's more cost to that, right?
Exactly.
Like, okay, maybe, yes, that's the thing is you may have the legal recourse to fight it, but can we just avoid the fight maybe?
Can we do it right the first time and not have to fix things?
Have to fix things.
Especially if people are like, I don't want to waste fees on attorneys. Yeah, we don't want you to waste fees on us either.
Right.
That's just a little secret.
So this one is a good one. This is for Charlotte. And just found out my husband is cheating on me. Started out as an emotional affair. I own my house. He's not on the deed. How can I kick him out? I want him to leave and he's refusing. And of course, the answers were like, just change the locks, take your things out of the window, like all those answers. Okay. Yeah. How can she get him out of the house? Can she get him out of the house?
Let me start with, I have a lot of empathy for someone who finds themselves in this situation.
That's very
hard. It is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I'll say that when we get this type of case, I tell my team, we're living in the gray, because legally speaking, yes, it's your sole and separate property, because especially if that deed was entered prior to the date of marriage, and let's say the mortgage is in that person's sole and separate name, there's a lot of legal tools already in the owner's benefit. The issue arises, though, is that you're married. Fancy that. And marriage does have certain protections, including having you live in a home and allowing you to stay in a home that you've been living in for any duration in the marriage. So even if it's legally her separate property on paper, it is still considered the marital residence for the marriage purposes. So no, she can't just change the locks. Similar to how a landlord-tenant situation, a landlord, they own the residence, but they can't just change the locks on the tenant. There are protections for that person who's in the house, even if their name is not on the deed. So no, you can't just change the locks. Now, that's when we start strategizing from the family law perspective. So if the owner of the house, the wife, I believe in this circumstance, comes in and talks to me, well, yes, we can strategize different ways to get that house into your sole possession, either via an agreement, and we can apply some pressure on the other spouse in different ways, or we file something with the court. One of the common ways I've gotten the house distributed is through a motion for what we call a motion for interim distribution, because it is then a judge saying, yes, this is your sole and separate property, so you can have sole and separate possession of it. Now, that doesn't mean there might not be a marital component, especially if, during the marriage they added a pool and it added, $20,000 to the value of the house. Like, that'll be addressed separately in the final equitable distribution of the matter. But at least interimly, we have an order that says you can have sole possession. So that is just one tactical maneuver that we can utilize. But yeah, don't just throw his clothes out the window. I mean, you could.
Movie style. Yeah. You
but
understand the position you are in, right? We are in this pain. And I think that's the hardest part for individuals going through this process. And that's what I battle with my clients all the time is you're having to make these decisions with all of the emotions attached to it. And if there's infidelity, that makes it everything 10 times more complicated because you're hurting and you're trying to make decisions because you want to hurt the other person. However, the only person you're hurting is yourself.
Exactly.
Because it's really damaging your case. You have to be very strategic when you're thinking about this.
And you have to be careful. This just came to mind because I've had this happen, is that if you do react in a violent-esque manner, you got to be careful that other spouse doesn't go file for domestic violence order protection and they get temporary possession, sole possession of the house.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I won't get the house back for you, but you're now out of your house for up to 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
Initially.
Or maybe longer.
Because
so
just don't do it.
Doesn't work.
Well, I'll say it this way. The system is broken and we are going to fix it.
100%.
Slowly but surely.
Yes.
But in the interim, don't throw the clothes out the window. Yeah.
Don't burn anything either. So I have, we don't have a lot of time, and I do have a question that I'm going to ask that is not what anybody asked, but I want to, I'm going to just put you on the spot. But there's one more law firm recommendation for North Carolina. That's the title. It says, I am in North Carolina. I am older. We don't have any minor children. This will be considered a great divorce. Alimony is a death penalty for an older man in my state. And they're asking for a recommendation for an attorney. I'm trying to go the friendly divorce route, but I fear this is not working. But this is a bad way to start this process thinking. Alimony is a death penalty for an older man in my state. And just for the record, this is specifically to North Carolina. I had these conversations with a lot of the husbands and my clients where they're very worried about what alimony they're going to have to face and how that works. But I feel like it's very, because we see the other side, right? The women that are very financially insecure and they're scared and terrified because they don't manage the money. But then this affects the husbands too. And he is clearly in a very bad place. He said, no children, great divorce, and alimony is a death penalty. That's a really dark way to look at what your life is going to be for the next
However long.
Yeah. Right?
It's also interesting because I do think the person who asks that question or feels that way is coming from a very vulnerable position.
Yes.
But that vulnerable position is not actually based in fact or reality, which is kind of, I mean, it's sad, right?
Very sad.
It's like, I'm like, I'm sitting here as an attorney. I'm like, well, first off, it's not a death penalty.
Right.
And go one step further. Why are we presuming alimony is a matter yet?
Right.
And I say that because, for example, the Social Security system does provide for ex-spouses to receive a certain amount of money from their ex-spouse's benefit, if you will. Now, it's generally not as much as if that ex-spouse was working and they built their own, pot of money that they're entitled to. But it's still something that's there. There's also that, since it is a gray divorce, there is, at least in my mind, a hope that there are retirement accounts.
Right.
So just side note, retirement accounts are also going to be divided. What does that mean? It means if we have $2 million in retirement funds, it'll likely be distributed 50-50. And so the now ex-spouse will be getting, distributions from that retirement pot, such that it's not coming from the person who asked this question. Likely not.
Likely.
Now,
Right.
if they're still working, that's a little bit of a different story.
Right.
But even still, alimony itself is to make sure that the necessary expenses of both parties are covered.
Right.
So it's not just, money that is just paid for shits and giggles, right?
It's
It
not a
is.
given.
There's actually a structured process around it. Now, in North Carolina, we don't have a calculator, which I know that does make it frustrating.
Yes.
And as a CDFA,
Yes.
that you have to investigate a lot of documents to look at historical spending to figure out what a budget looks like for one or both of the parties.
Yes.
And so if there is enough money to go around, great. But if there isn't, that's the other factor. A lot of people forget this factor.
I know.
It's dependency and
ability.
ability to pay.
So
If you don't have the ability, you don't pay.
I think that is the biggest problem too, because, and I said this, and I had a whole episode about alimony, and I had a lot of messages about it because people didn't like what I said. But the reality is this: is twofold: is the ability to pay and the needs, right? But also the fact that, okay, let's pretend that this is a black and white dependent spouse. Yes, they receive alimony. You cannot duplicate money. Mm-hmm. You have the same amount of money. Mm-hmm. You can use that same income to say, okay, we're going to keep the same lifestyle and we're both going to be in our separate homes and we're going to have the same life. It is impossible. Like it's just is not a thing. Mm-hmm. So you have the two sides: the ones that doesn't want to pay even though they're supposed to, or the ones that they just want to get paid because they feel like there's an entitlement on some level. And my thought is, there's personal responsibility of both sides. To know and understand also that if you have $10, it's $10. You can be in two separate houses. Now you have $5.
Yep.
You don't have 10 together. Mm-hmm. So I think that is kind of like the biggest part of this. But before we go, and this is not something we talk about, but I think it's very important, very timely. I'm dealing with this a lot. AI. And clients coming with, AI said this to me. I asked the question. I think it's even more dangerous than social media on some level because there's not even the good intention of helping somebody. And it's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's like 9 times out of 10, all of those AI systems, software, whatever you call them, they're going to give you the wrong information. Mm-hmm. And there's people that are basing their cases on AI.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
That is
scary.
Scary.
Yeah. I'll say it this way. ChatGPT, Chat and I, we're friends, right? But my friend Chat did not go to law school. Right. My friend Chat has never litigated a case in a courtroom, does not know the judges that I know, does not know the other attorneys that I know, does not get creative the way that, we or other family law professionals get creative. Chat is kind of like a calculator. It is a tool that we use and we go back and forth with it to ask a lot of questions and maybe recalculate things or reword things. But other than maybe a dinner recipe, I don't actually rely on chat that much.
Yeah.
And that's when, chat, for example, is a great tool if, for example, you're going to go meet with an attorney and you think of questions or concerns that you have, and you say, okay, chat, here are all my concerns. Here are some of the questions I have. Can you create a comprehensive list of questions I should ask? Great use of chat. Not how do I draft a divorce complaint?
Or how much I'm entitled of the restricted units that my husband received when we were married. Yeah. I had that one. I had to literally explain to a person why whatever ChatGPT told her was wrong.
Yeah.
And it creates a big problem. So the bottom line is there is a reason there's our experts.
Yeah.
We don't become experts overnight. We don't become experts because we have some kind of tool online that we can get the information. I think it's very important, the experience, because again, like we said, there's all the cases are different. So we did have a case one time that we did one thing. Yeah. And if we didn't, there's another professional we can talk about. But the problem is that not every case is the same. And there's a lot of things to consider when you're going through this process. And the bottom line for me is this is way too important. Mm-hmm. These decisions are going to affect yourself, your kids, your whole family for the rest of your life, for you to rely on social media, well-intended advice, and ChatGPT or any of other software, right? I think that is one thing. So this was fun. And I know that, they're looking at me over there and like they're not making signs, but I have to go. We have to go, but it's always fun to do this one.
Yes,
because it's great to put the right information out there, if you will, and for individuals to understand that there is professionals that you can talk to. There are professionals that are there to help you go through this, not just trying to take your money, if you will. And that is always good to have friends that you can ask questions. But if you're going to make decisions that affect the rest of your life, ask the experts, basically. So that's the bottom line. So thank you for being here. This was fun.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. A pleasure.
This was fun. And thank you so much for being there. We're going to put all the information for you to reach out to Theresa. We're going to put her podcast as well, so you can go and check her out. I think she gives a lot of information that it may not be legally. It's from North Carolina, but I know she has a lot of guests that can help anyone that is going through this process. So that is always good to have as a resource. And again, thank you. I hope this was helpful. I hope this is helping you to at least make the right decisions or at least find the right professionals when you're going through this process. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you're going through a separation or divorce, please contact me through my website at everafterwealth.com. I would love to be a resource and partner as you navigate this season and prepare for your financial future. I'll see you in the next episode.